After flying from Seattle, Washington to Bogota, Colombia, and touring Colombia and Ecuador, I crossed the border into Tumbes, Peru. From Tumbes, I headed south toward Lima with a stopover in Trujillo and Huanchaco. I met up with my Crooked Trails travel group in Lima and did a bit of sightseeing there before joining our last tour member in Cusco. After exploring Cusco, it was on to Cachora, where we would begin our Choquequirao Trek, followed by a visit to a weavers cooperative in Chinchero. I would then return to Cusco, fly to Lima, and then on to Bogota, Colombia on a variety of land transportation modes. Here is a map of the Choquequirao area, which is just west of Cusco and Machu Picchu. When I arrived in Tumbes, I expected to get a morning bus to Lima as indicated in the Lonely Planet guidebook, but there was only a night bus. Unlike most towns, none of the local restaurants had Wi-Fi. I had breakfast with eggs, papaya juice, and coffee con leche at a Plaza restaurant, where this little boy, who was the owner's son, enjoyed playing Fruit Ninja on my iPad. After walking about, I found a Ramada Inn with Wi-Fi, where I hung around the pool all day, used their shower, and restaurants too. It was then time to catch my deluxe night bus to Trujillo. I am staying at the Hotel Colonial just around the corner from the Trujillo Cathedral on the Plaza de Armas, which is really beautiful. From my balcony, I saw and heard this procession to the nearby church. The center of Trujillo is what many say is the most beautiful plaza in South America because of its well-kept grounds and well-preserved buildings surrounding the Plaza de Armas. This model was a pleasant way to view the Independencia Monument, which commemorates Trujillo being the first Peruvian city to declare independence from Spain in 1820. Emilio, a retired professor I met, pointed out historical buildings that used to be occupied by some of the Spanish conquistadors, governors, and wealthy people. He joined me for my short ride out to Huanchaco, where I would stay for a few days before continuing on to Lima. We ate lunch at one of the many cheap seafood restaurants, as he told me how he used to frequently come here with other professors and students. He returned to Trujillo while I found my way to the Frog Surf Hostel and a wonderful room with a view and hammock overlooking the entire bay for just $14 per night. Once I saw the reed boats the fishermen use, I realized that this was the location of a segment of the Amazing Race, with the contestants rowing through the surf in these reed boats to pick up their next clue. The truck stop couple, Mike and Rochelle, took forever to balance their way out to get the clue. returned for one last tour around Trujillo before I boarded my night bus to Lima. I enjoyed my deluxe night bus ride to Lima. Once there, I took the Metropolitano Rapid Transit to my Miraflores Laughing Dog Hostel, and then returned to the Plaza de Armas, where the changing of the guard ceremony was performing. The following day, I met up with my hiking buddies from Loreto, Mexico, Gary and Heidi Holliday, who also live in Austin, Texas. I repeated my visit with them to see some sights in downtown Lima. Throughout Lima, I saw a few more demonstrations, just as I had seen when I was here 10 years ago. The Monasterio de San Francisco has a painting of the Last Supper, Peruvian style, with a cuy, guinea pig, along with some Quechua-looking people around the edges of the painting. We then descended to the catacombs, where the cleaned-up remains were carefully sorted out. They no longer allow pictures here, so these are from 2005. We had lunch at the Corona Bar and Restaurant near the Plaza de Armas, where they say that all of the Peruvian presidents have dined since it opened in 1905. I next visited Chinatown and the nearby public market, found in towns and cities throughout South America. Lima has exclusive bus lanes that shoot down the middle of the freeway. After I got on for my ride back to Miraflores, I saw that both sides of the freeway resembled parking lots, and the articulated bus I was on was standing room only all the way to my stop. My Laughing Dog hostel backs onto this park that is just chock full of cats. I found that rather amusing. By the time we'd finished touring several sites in Lima, the winds had died down, so that only those that weighed less than 110 pounds could do paragliding. Maybe next time. Our tour group saw a bit of Lima before heading to Cusco. Here we are at the Huacapulana Inca ruins in the Miraflores area that date back to 200 AD. There were 4 civilizations that were discovered, including some Wari civilization mummies. It was not until the mid-20th century that this site was professionally investigated and became a historical park in 1991. Here are some members of our Choquequirao Trek group. Alexis Van Bonoff is our tour director from Crooked Trails and has been to Peru and South America several times and is fluent in Spanish. Malu Alvarez is a professional photographer from New York City, born in Mexico City with roots in Spain and raised in South Texas. And again, Gary and Heidi, who now seem to always be traveling since Gary retired from the company he started. Here is a map of the ruins surrounded by the city. On our way to the Lima Country Club, where we planned to have the national drink, Pisco Sour, we passed this ancient olive orchard and small lake teeming with tropical fish. We also came to the Huaca pyramid that were occupied from around 200 BC to 700 AD, first by the Hulali settlers. When we arrived at the Lima Country Club, the waiter seated us in the richly wooded paneled bar. It was like out of the roaring 20s, complete with the era music and uniformed waiters. So much fun we had 2 Pisco Sours. The waiter enjoyed our company so much he treated us to these tasty hors d'oeuvres. Our Pisco Sours were artwork as well. In the morning we flew to Cusco, where we headed to the El Balcon Hostel. We stayed here a few days to acclimate to the 12,000-foot elevation. When we walked down to the Plaza de Armas, we were pleased to see young dance groups practicing for the upcoming Independence Day celebrations. We then headed to the public market, where I again met the same fruit juice woman who had served me when I was last here about 10 years ago. We had invited an Inca shaman to ask Pachamama for a safe journey to Choquequirao. He performed this ceremony in candlelight. He created a kind of universe beginning with coca leaves and adding more elements from nature, including items of ours we gave him. He then murmured Quechua words over it and then wrapped it up to take it to a special place. Ronnie was the guide and interpreter for this session. We then headed to the Papillon restaurant that overlooked the plaza for some delicious Peruvian fare and Inca music. We toured the Curicancha Museum along with the Santo Domingo Church that was built over these Inca buildings. Our local museum guide, Diana, was very knowledgeable about the history of the Incas and the Spanish conquistadores. She showed us the blocks of Inca stone with interlocking elements that withstood the many earthquakes here. Stephen, who lives in Lima with his wife and 2 boys, joins us. He's a retired education book broker and teacher and is now a surfer along with his sons.
Represents the spiritual world. When one people died, each body of the mummy was carried by the condor to the real world. Is the interpretation. Puma represents the energy and power, and the snake represents underneath, underground, represents wisdom.
Panchakuti statue was quite controversial because it was added recently to reflect the Inca roots. Preservationist groups like UNESCO World Heritage and its counterpart Lima disapproved of this recent change. However, the Cusco people and officials said that this statue of the Emperor of the Inca Empire represented their long history, which should not be removed. So it stands, a golden fiberglass statue shining in the sun.
Sexy woman.
On our last day in Cusco, before beginning our Choquequirao Trek, we walk up the Sexy Woman, the huge Inca fortress that overlooks Cusco.
Those dang telephone poles. Way up here.
I haven't learned about underground utilities.
Nope.
It's kind of hard on the top.
That's a little bruised.
Malu is taking close-ups of this decorated lamb the locals use as photo props for tourists.
Were the high priests getting carried?
Oh, always, yeah.
Didn't they get chubby then?
They're very Roman, right?
The stonework here was incredible, where these huge stones were tightly fitted together and have withstood earthquakes, but many of the original structures have been taken by the Spaniards for use in building their own homes.
And the other name, Saxa Puma. Saxa, like the mountain.
Here we are, jumping for joy over Cusco before we embark on our Choquequirao Trek.
As well.
Three, I'll do it on three. 1, 2, 3.
They use these llamas to mow the grass around Sexy Woman, and they are reluctant tourist props, as Heidi has found out.
Got a couple. Don't go too fast.
Starting with Gary, several of us try out the Inca slide.
Sliding down the rocks.
Go, Heidi!
Off the Sexy Woman. The Sexy Woman. She's a real speedster.
I don't like it.
Oh, come on.
She says, I don't like it.
Spin on the hands for traction.
I don't know. Does that make it slippery?
No, it makes it
Come
stick.
on.
Makes your hands sticky.
Just know you can use your heels if you need to.
Woo! Woo!
Yay!
Try
She
that
did it.
again.
Okay, here I go.
Malu enjoyed it so much she slid twice. It now looks like the young dancers are doing their dress rehearsal with full costumes. This is a very peculiar dance where the girls first whip the boys and then slap them while they are on the ground. The boys then get up and slap the girls some before the girls then get up and stand victorious over the boys. Our Quechua guide, Juan Carlos, joined us along with Ronnie, the shaman interpreter, at the Andinos restaurant where we had cuy while being entertained. Cuy is the national food of Peru. Heidi and Malou were up for it, although a bit apprehensive. Education is one aspect of travel, so we headed to the Pisco Museum for some further research on pisco sour. Once there, we experienced great music as well as some fine pisco sour drinks of all types. Heidi got an advanced course in mixology, much to our envy. Gary and Heidi closed out the evening there with some great dance moves fueled by pisco sours. The following day, we drove from Cusco to Cachora along the Apurimac River, stopping so Raul, our chef, and Juan Carlos's brother could pick up some produce. We arrived at the Tres Balcones hostel in Cachora, where Raul prepared a fish dinner for us. This map shows our start at Cachora in the lower middle and Choquequirao, our destination. They load up our bags, shelter, food, and kitchen on this small truck that will drive up to the end of the road where we will have lunch, and they will saddle up the horses. We start our trek from here.
Day one.
Woohoo! Let's go!
Where's the plastic bag? Do you see how it's the red on the pole there?
That means they're selling chicha morada.
Oh, you mean the
Let's go.
Just chicha.
Hazme para un ratito. Tío. Mamita. Ruinas.
Sí, está bien. Viva nomás.
But what we are going to do is ask here also and comment our life, our group, yes, to have us a successful and very nice, good tree, everybody. Okay? We are gonna leave the three coca leaves. Please, Malu, can you help me? Please hold it back. Yeah? We are gonna choose the best three coca leaves to leave as an offering. Sí, entonces eso. Era también algo así como.
Juan Carlos is either related to or knows everyone we pass by. Choquequirao is described as the cradle of the Inca gods, a recently discovered Inca ruins that when totally unearthed will be larger than Machu Picchu.
Hola.
It is also located in the area described as the Sacred Valley.
All the way up there, right?
This is looking from the end of the road back to Cachora.
Okay, here's all our stuff for the horses.
Raul, a professional chef from the hotel at Machu Picchu, took some time off to join us and be with his family. He prepared gourmet meals for us along the way with this lunch of lomo saltado, a Peruvian dish of marinated strips of beefsteak, onions, tomatoes, and other ingredients, served with fried potatoes, rice, and vegetables.
Almost a standing ovation.
Okay, get closer to the table a little bit.
Oh, hold on.
Please. Like hungry. Okay, Raul there. And the vegetables on the right.
Right?
Good idea.
Gracias. Y
My model.
Oh.
From here, we would walk several hours, mostly downhill to our first camp, some 2,100 feet below and 19 kilometers distance. The view from our lunch spot was spectacular. This is our first view of the Apurimac River Valley, twice as deep as the Grand Canyon. We would then descend 4,500 feet and then ascend all the way back up on our way to Choquequirao.
So Miraflores are still messing with me. I may have gotten.
There is the canyon.
Yeah.
Apurimac, the river is down there.
There were so many switchbacks and steep rocky spots down this arid slope, only broken up near the bottom when we passed through this spooky forest of bare trees that were festooned with bromeliad plants that looked like large spiders ready to pounce on us. We awoke at 4:30 a.m. and with headlights on, we trekked through the spooky forest down another 2,500 feet to the new bridge that crosses the Apurimac River. We climbed about 4,500 feet to our second campsite at Juan Carlos's home called Mama Panchita's that was just about 3 kilometers from the Choquequirao ruins, or about 12 kilometers for the day. Across the valley, we could see the switchbacks we hiked down that now have strings of horses and mules loaded with supplies coming our way.
Yeah, horses?
Listen. Oh, goodness gracious.
The trail up from the bridge was well maintained and climbed at a fairly steady angle, but the number of switchbacks we climbed through was incredible. It just never seemed to end. I stopped here because the trail split in 2 ways, so I asked the horseman for directions.
Hola.
Amigo, ¿cómo está? Buenos días.
¿Esta choquería? ¿Choquería o esta? Choquería.
Sí, también
Okay.
y también.
Ah,
Sí,
la
loco.
misma.
Sí, la misma.
Ah, ok, gracias.
Amigo. Gracias. Hola, buenos días.
Hola, buenos días. ¿Cómo está?
Ya, ¿es usted?
I stopped at this small tienda on the way up and bought a cup of chicha, slightly fermented corn juice, from a woman that turned out to be Juan Carlos's aunt. Around noon, we all finally got to Mama Panchita's and met Juan Carlos's mom, along with some other relatives. The horsemen got there about the same time, so the family had a reunion as they unloaded the horses for the day. Raul got busy preparing lunch for us. We'd hiked about 12 kilometers from our morning camp.
So impressive, Alexis. So impressive.
Hey!
we made it. Great.
Hi, everybody. I have a great idea. The worst.
Both Alexis and Malou began doing a series of complicated yoga poses while the rest of us just did yoga corpse pose. Chris tried to do a handstand while Malou was doing a yoga handstand that lasted for what seemed to be like about 10 minutes. Chickens pecked around all of us while we rested both before and after lunch.
How do you open this?
Here's the tienda.
Oh,
Cheers. La tienda.
la tienda.
Más cerveza, por favor.
This is Juan Carlos's mom.
I met her, yes, yes.
Mamacita.
She gave me the chicha.
Yeah.
Juan Carlos and Rebecca, his cousin, and her 1-year-old girl gave us a tour of his parents' farm. We saw 2 buildings that housed guinea pigs, quay, and chickens. Another building that was smoking had a new batch of chicha brewing. He pointed out that when the farmers had chicha available for sale, they would put a colorful plastic bag on top of a long pole, a chicha for sale sign. It was a beautiful morning with wisps of clouds passing below us in the Apurimac Valley as we began our short hike to Choquequirao. The hilltop in the distance is a round gathering area of the ruins, which is about 300 meters in diameter. The terraced areas below are the agricultural terraces used to grow a variety of foods in the microclimate there. A new spelling of Choquequirao on this sign. Juan Carlos indicated that they designed these terraces to allow water to irrigate the crops, yet when floods came, the water flowed down through the topsoil to gravel and then to larger rocks near the bottom of each terrace, and then down to the next. The flooding never damaged the terraces because they designed the water flow so well. Juan Carlos told us his dad used to work for the archaeologists here, and he got to go with his dad sometimes to help dig up relics. We are in the large level area, and the structures in the back were for the chieftain, his family, and close advisors.
Okay. Go there, and then the last place to see from up there, and then to the other side. We go around to get to the campsite.
Gary and Juan Carlos are reenacting a battle between invading tribes. Again, Raul brought up a hot meal of stir-fried vegetables and chicken with a salad along with a fruit drink, so we were able to picnic in style among the Choquequirao ruins, in the chieftain area, no less.
You'll be rewarded with a view of a beautiful flower.
After lunch, we headed to the Ascencio De Llamas. It was a bit of a hike down to it, where we first rested right by the white serpent design, and a few llama designs marked by white rocks in the rockworks.
I guess in Peru.
After all of it, this was nothing compared to what they're going to have to do to go back up.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it is. I made it! He's still smiling.
Hey.
Don't knock him off the stairs.
Yeah, go rolling downhill.
After our tiring climb up these endless steps, we headed up to the round tabletop where we had this view of the chieftain structure, open market area, and the structures above before heading down to our campsite in the Choquequirao ruins area.
See the bridge? No. Right there, you can see the shadow.
We reached camp just as the sun was beginning to set. This was the most used campsite we had been to, and the grass was all mushed up with mud oozing through. It began to get pretty cold as we freshened up for dinner. Another brain-freeze shower awaited those brave enough to try.
Five. That'll be us tomorrow. Oh, it's like nothing to buy.
Our dining tent was now divided between the cooking area and our dining room table, which made for some cozy eating. The inside of the tent was much warmer than outside as we finished off dinner and our 1-liter carton of wine. The following morning we headed down to Mama Panchita's, where we'd have a late lunch before continuing on to camp number 1 on the other side of the valley. We would be descending over 4,500 feet to the bridge and then climb up about 2,500 feet of switchbacks, about a 15-kilometer day.
I'm not worried that much.
Yeah. No, but I think you're correct, Heidi. I think it's it's hard on your skin, all this stuff.
Yeah.
Especially this 3,000% deep bedspread.
It's important.
We again had a good rest while waiting for the most elaborate meal of our trip. The lunch started with soup, followed by meat-wrapped vegetables, rice, frittata with olives, mushrooms, and other vegetables, and tomatoes, cheese with fresh basil leaves. As the mules were saddled up, we began our descent of 4,500 feet down to the Apurimac River Bridge and then back up another 1,500 feet to Camp 1. We pulled into camp just as the sun was setting and laid out our sleeping bags and stuff in our tents before heading down to dinner in the dark.
Hola.
Hola.
Este es un video.
Gary was tired from the hike, but was glad to have rested in the afternoon waiting for us. However, while waiting for dinner, he fell asleep at the table. We did too, just after dinner. On our last morning, we eagerly headed out, knowing that at the end of our 19-kilometer hike up another 2,100 feet, we would be heading back to Cusco for hot showers, soft beds, laundry for our very dirty clothes, and dinner. As we came into Cachora, it was alive with lots of market stalls. Apparently on this day, the government issues a 200 soles stipend to all of the Quechua residents. This gives them a reason to gather together for a bit of a celebration and a way to sell and exchange goods.
And you enjoyed also this trip. I'm so happy, and for sure they are also, to be happy in this trip with you. Thank you very much for everything. If any day, one day you decide to come back, we'll be still here. Okay? Yes. Thank you.
Dos, tres, a la Virgen, a la Virgen, a la Virgen, bom, bom, los hermanos, los hermanos.
I was looking forward to returning to Chinchero since I was last here in 2005, before they had finished the Minca hostel. I brought with me photographs I'd taken of the people working at the Weavers Cooperative.
I think we might have some guinea pig in our future because we're eating here.
Yeah. The lone survivor here.
We are very high up. I'm thirsty. We've already purchased. We purchased some. Well, that was, it means that the sales lady.
Esta raíz sirve para lavar lana de alpaca y lana de oveja.
So this root we use to wash the lamb's wool.
Su nombre se llama sarta. Lo sirve para lavar lana de alpaca y lana de oveja. Coja unos 30 minutos, 20 minutos, más blanco.
Same plant.
Same
but
kind of plant.
Just in different areas, different colors.
Y este es maíz que de los niños.
De los niños.
No de mayores.
So to set the color, they use children's pea.
Flores. Y esto es para colores amarillos y diferentes tonos de amarillo.
They're like, she put too much on.
Are they?
Too much lime.
Now?
Panchamama.
Like this and tequila.
No, por cosmético.
Cosmetic.
Agregar un poco de cochinilla.
She's going to put a little cochinilla in the clean water. You can see that it's turning red.
Esto es el fijador para esa planta chica.
This is the fixer for the chilca plant.
Huele muy rico. It smells pretty good.
¿Y se puede?
Pero aquí no. Voy a agregar esta lana blanca.
So I'm going to put this white wool in there.
¿Suave? Sí, voy a tocar.
Está mojada.
Ajá, siempre tenemos que mojar.
It has to be wet. It has to be wet. And it's soft.
And you can see how immediately it just turns the color that they've been boiling it.
Si adivinas va a haber premio.
If you guess right, she'll give you a prize.
What do you say, Gary?
I said blue.
Oh.
That's right.
You've seen the presentation before.
Yeah, he's cheating.
Why is
Entonces,
that?
como está solo, ¿no? Y a su presente una de las señoras.
Ah.
What?
Oh, no, está casado.
Aquí no está casado, solo está.
What did she say?
She wanted to know if Rick was married. She's going to introduce him to one of her ladies. And I said, well, he's married. And she goes, well, Kiri's not. Why would we do this in a crossed form? It's so that you can have designs on both sides. So the designs will show up on both sides.
Terminando este trabajo.
We have the designs all stored in our heads. So we're taught when we're that young, and we keep all the designs in our heads. Sí.
Ese es el hueso de un turista que no se ha comprado nada.
No tourist.
It's the bone of a tourist who didn't buy anything.
This is Evelyn, who was just a one-year-old baby strapped to her mother's back in 2005. And now look how beautiful and friendly she is.
O puede adornar a su cama también.
En la cama. That's what she just said. What you said.
Para muchas cosas pueden utilizar.
Porque para la mesa, alpaca.
Faustina is Vilma's mother, and I'm holding the picture I took of her 10 years ago. These 3 generations of women seemed to laugh and be happy all of the time we were with them. Gary and Heidi, my Loreto hiking amigos, are still friends after this most strenuous Choquequirao trek. They continue with Malu along the Sacred Valley, including Machu Picchu, and I head back to Bogota, Colombia for my flight to Seattle. On my way out, I stopped in the plaza to see if I could find Jesus, the flute maker who I had met 10 years ago. Sure enough, I did, along with his family.
Richard, from Seattle, Washington, Estados Unidos. Estados Unidos, sí. Sí, I'm here para 2 meses. Colombia, Ecuador, Peru. Yeah. Yeah.
I then headed from Chinchero to Bogota, Colombia for my flight back to Seattle. It would take several days by taxi, bus, metro, and walking, as well as 2 border crossings. Check out my June and July 2015 blog entries for more details of this trip.